Well, I nearly lost it over the back. In fact, I was waving my fist at whoever was over at the back there. It was like stand away the back.
Yesterday, in one of the English raid cars, car 4 down the back of the grid, the beautiful Alpha of Graham Lowe's, the ex-Tony Gay's car, 1936 2-litre supercharged, reconnect the gearbox. Cameron slowly blowing a lot of oil out of the left-hand bank of the board. Probably that's why Malcolm's car's not running fast. With Mel Reid following him round past John Herman, reached the cop. Dr. Grant, round through one, I think they come again over the start finish line for the last lap. Number 3, and that most certainly is the order in which they'll finish. Don Black coming to the line now to take the victory. Something else, 35. The extra nervous one, of course.
certainly looking forward to some tremendous new cars from Jaguars there, and I think continuing
Jaguar over Australia, but don't forget Peugeot. With 96 deciding. Graham Douglas.
You're the man.
£2. Considerable.
Somewhat firmly, he walked to the front of the car, reached down to the starting handle, which was at the bottom. Followed by Morris Turner. Then the 1440 Vauxhall, car 77 of Richard Walton. Jet Solar is car number 3, the Brooklyn Riley replica. Car 177, the Darcy Austin 7 Special Barry Savage.
Attention, please. With Charles Crawford, please.
What's red? An aluminium body. Keep their cars in a glass case. They bring it out, use them for what they were for, historic racing cars. During the week when we were touring some of the media outlets with Sterling Moss, one of the journalists asked him about historic racing and what it meant to him. And he said, don't lay too heavily on the word historic, because he said, I used to drive these cars and race them competitively when they were brand new. So they're not... which country I did it, but I whistled an XJS up to an indicated 240 kilometres an hour, and it was as silent at that speed as at 100, and as directionally stable as it was at 100, and again... John Sutter in the 3.8 in Moon Car Racing, Ron Hodgson, Bill Pitt, Ian Gagan, Bill Burns, and then in Jaguar Sports Car.
foot cars, XK120s.
Well, we've had that.
Go back to your era, John.
It certainly does, as they say. Sterling Moss.
Is fitting in with Sterling's commitment still to motor for Sterling, but if it answered and no photographs goes out without a...
They deserve an answer, and he's very careful about that.
How does Sterling live his days these days, keeping busy? What does he do?
Oh, he's terribly hectic. He starts work probably at about 7:30 in the morning.
He comes onto the straight, you can see him sliding out left here. But it really is watching the master at work, I see.
You'd probably get to understand the work as well.
I offered him a ride in the Castro 6-hour bike race, but he wasn't too keen on that.
He doesn't like big bikes at all. He rides
With two children, a daughter by a previous marriage.
That's right.
This is the very first appearance of John Goss's new car. That is new as in new. It is the old shell, but it's a completely new car for Bathurst. It'll be entered under the title Jaguar Cars Cross Racing, but the number one driver for Bathurst will in fact be the current leader of the European Rally Cup. I think those people who are going to Bathurst this year to see a Commodore Falcon walkover might just be surprised when they see the performance potential of this demonstration. But there's quite a lot of high technology gone into this car, and although it's a Group C car, it's very much, the development is modelled very much along the lines of the Group A Jaguars currently racing in Europe, and Hardy 1000 on September 30th. Famous names of Mary Jaguar gets into the LM250. Mary Jaguar. And this beautiful 250LM being driven at the moment by a man that a lot of Appendix J touring car fans will remember, Spencer Martin. And what a beautiful car this is, having a run at Amaru Park just prior to it going to America to race. Not much less than that has been refused for the car, and it is probably the only remaining one-owner LM250 in the world. One of very few in the world. I can't tell you exactly how many, but very few. If you take 275 millilitres as the trip volume of one cylinder and multiplied by 12, you have the engine capacity. 3.3 litres, I remember. All Ferrari models are
21st at the showground naturally, midnight's duration. These new dates in October for the Sydney Motor Show, after 30 years in wintry August, have been a popular move with exhibitors and are expected to appeal to visitors. In excess of 22,500 square metres of undercover display area in 11 halls at the RC in the future. More floor space than ever before has been allocated to displays of new vehicles. The best value motor show ever. And 22, which is so
What did you do, Timmy?
very interesting. We're fighting over who's going to get in on the line program. The Osborne, 1930 Riley. Now 21 was next, Graham Clark, Victoria. Cameron McMillan was next. Suppose we've got to talk about the result of the race just concluded, the Group L.
Thank you, man. You'd have to get something off the old guy. How about that? No. Thanks, mate. Thanks, John. It was good.
Before the meeting goes any further, deep appreciation, the Historic Sports and Racing Car Association, for Thai, who are one of the major sponsors of the meeting.
Okay, we can fire it up, gentlemen.
You'll see there the ad on the inside back cover. He sort of had to grow up with it, just like your sons had to, Ray. And Christopher Zilio, announcer, ex-circuit announcer, and general man about town, and ex-racing car news journalist. Indeed. Well, there's a few of them, but yeah, Sterling. And they're going to have a hard time recognising the fact that it's midwinter here. Yes, it's been a lovely day. Now let's hear it, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Sterling and his lovely lady. Good rousing cheer for them. All giving Sterling a bit of a clap as he comes back to the start-finish area. And he's...
He's not a poor gentleman at all. I thought it was a privilege and an honour. I really did.
I did see them actually because I bent down to pick them up, and I decided it wasn't.
I didn't run into it. It was stupid me that dropped them, Sterling. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. It's a. What was I driving? Oh, a big greyish Jag, XK. Trying to remember the number plate.
A bit of a drink, will you?
And I was watching how they do it. You turn right to go through right-hand corners.
Left to go through left-hand corners.
And right to correct.
Mr. John Crawford,
left
JRA, and Paul Cross from Pike and Timber Products. Can you hear us? If you can, could you please come to the base of the control tower?
Sterling ran over the
Now, you're probably one of the few people who've ever had their glasses run over by Sterling. Now, that doesn't happen too often. Yeah, you'd be a one-off there, I'd reckon. Definitely a one-off.
He admitted it. His darling wife said, gee, I'm sorry about that. I saw them in the last minute, so I didn't say anything until later, and I'm so apologetic.
Richard West
stuff like that.
Officials, this opportunity of thanking everybody for making our stay here such fun. We really have had a terrific time the whole time we've been over here. JRA, as you may know, Avon and Pi were the people who clubbed together to get us here. We'd like to obviously thank them very much, because if it wasn't for them bringing us here, we wouldn't be here now. But having said that, they really did, and you have really gone out of your way to make our trip terrific, and we have had a super time. And I think today was great. Not only was the weather, so we've seen some really good racing. I must say, we do go through quite a few races, but really, the races today, that last one particularly, I think is one of the more exciting ones we've seen, and I'd like to say...
GC. We will see probably at this meeting the finest collection of MGs in Australia. The legendary K3, the Q-Type, the TC, and all the other marks that go to make MG the famous name in motorsport.
Better.
Done it again. Perfect weather, interesting cars, courageous drivers, a nice club atmosphere which made a bit of a change to our big commercial extravaganza last year. Look forward to doing it all again next year, bigger and better than ever.
Who's the sponsor next year, Stephen? I believe there is one.
We're still negotiating.
Takes up very little room.
Yeah, well, you've got to go through your spiel about the car and all the rhubarb.
Right. It's Mario Andretti's 1979 car, identical to the one that he won the World Championship in 1978. It's a Type 79, and it's just before the carbon fibre era, but it was the start of all the ground effects. And try that. That's too much.
You've only got a 1.5G body.
I got a 1.5G body, yes. But it's fun. It's fun.
Flat bottom?
No.
It's tuned.
It's full, and it's got
Venturi bottom.
Yes, and it's got the sliding skirts.
Up at the
1979. So it's 9 years old.
Doesn't look a day over a day.
Got a Jim Clark car. This was the thing that surprised me when I heard about it first. And they'd kept all their later cars, and they just had this thing about if they could get an opportunity to buy a Jim Clark car, they would. And I had the 32B, which Roxburgh had in the later years. And
Sweeten the deal.
Yes. And it took them 4 years to think about it, because they're not in selling cars, they're into racing. So it was never a major subject to them. But eventually they said, okay, if you decide which one you would like, and tell us what you think your car is worth, because our car is worth X.
The party and chats are up, and the evening progresses, and they have a few drinks, and they agree that they'll go to bed. Right? And she said, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And he said, look, he said, I've got to tell you that I've got a penis the size of a 3-year-old. And she said, what, like that? He said, no, like that.
An expensive heap of bits, you think?
Yeah, it did. And there was a lot missing, but the basic, what we knew was it was a real motor car. We bought it from a fellow who had it for 25 years in bits, and we brought it back here and spent about 3 years putting it together, and then we spent another 2 years making it work properly.
And you spent a couple of times hitting things with it before it worked.
Yeah, and for the first time in 25 years, now it's going really well and really reliably. We sort of do quite a lot of touring in it.
Just repeating for the inconsiderate.
It's really... I dreamt about having one of these since I was about 16, and I haven't been disappointed.
Supercharger, and they can run supercharged and unsupercharged.
No, they can't.
It has been done.
Well, yeah, but...
difficult.
Yeah, and pointless, I would have thought. But it flows that they develop, on methanol they develop about 160 horsepower, and the English guys are revving them to over 7. I race this on methanol, which makes it run a hell of a lot cooler.
Down under here
is the carburetor.
Carburetor.
And how fast can it go when you're angry?
Well, if you were allowed to race them at Bathurst, I guess it'd do nearly 140 miles an hour. But there's no other circuit in Australia where you can open them out, really. I mean, at this circuit, it's only in top gear for about 3 or 4 seconds.
Now, what haven't I done there, John?
Anybody entering the dummy grid through other than the top gate
Genuine rattling good fit.
will not be
Now, have you got to file
approved for
your,
racing.
the sides of your shoes
All
up against
entry
your feet?
to the dummy grid and hence to the
Very
pits
narrow shoes.
is through the
Yeah,
top
we'll might get
gate
Dick to
of the dummy
have a
grid.
shot of all that, just how narrow it is
You
down
enter
there.
through the side.
Which pumps oil from a tank under the
Well,
seat
good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
into the sump.
This
That's
is
a
Peter
pump
Gibbs on behalf
that
of
you can see working there.
the historic
That pumps air into the petrol tank to pressurise the fuel and force it through. And then once the engine's going, there's a little pump on the engine that takes over. So that's the air pressure. There's a little cluster of taps here
And for those of you who haven't
you can adjust to determine where the air goes.
historic meeting before the event that
That's
we
the
have
oil pressure gauge.
on our program, which is
That's the
taking
clock,
place
so I
right
know
now,
how long I've been doing things.
is the regularity trial.
This is an advance and retard lever for the
This is
magneto.
open to all
That's
competitors
the on-off switch.
of all classes.
That's the magneto
And
there.
in simple terms, basically,
That's the rev
what it is,
counter.
each driver
That's a
nominates
Kai gas, which is like a
lap
choke.
time that he thinks he can
And that
circulate
pumps raw fuel straight into the
regular
inlet
pace throughout
manifold.
a period of 10
And that's
minutes.
the tap for the fuel, on-off for the
The
fuel.
object of the
It
exercise
runs a
is
half-inch
to
fuel
circulate
line
over a
because
park as close to
on
that
methanol it
nominated
gets
lap
about
time as
5 miles
possible.
to the gallon.
And the driver
This is the gear stick,
is able
and
to
this
do
thing
that
out here is
after
the
10 minutes
handbrake.
will win this event.
And then, as you can
It
see,
doesn't
it's very
matter
narrow
what
in there, and you've really got to have narrow shoe to be able to drive it. And usually, if I'm driving it around in the city or something, I just wear a pair of socks,
During this
take my
event,
shoes off.
it doesn't mean event yesterday. In second place was Peter Cohen in his 1953
It's a tail light off a Hispano
and
Switzer.
third was John Merrick in the very determined racing here yesterday. There is nothing to...
And that's the actual Ferrari that won the first Grand Prix for Enzo. There you can see the detailed finish of the car. It's absolutely magnificent, and I think that you don't have to say too much about it. Just look at the finish. The size of the brakes, the turnout of the hull case, complete with a small ding where it's had a hit with a hay bale. V12, 4.5 litres. No shortage of grunt, as you'll see very shortly.
With the rubbish to this will work. That's not supporting it. He said it looks
We start off by saying thank you very much to Rick Marks and his late on
1908 Talbot that crossed Australia, making its 80th anniversary run. At 140.
Without flag marshals and in the rain. I was going for lap after lap after, and the whole and the other one was coming through the Estes. I came round off the straight, then the left hand, and I went straight ahead, there again. And morning, Dad.
Springs like a siege on them. So they tend to bounce.
On track. All traffic set while we...
Cars coming out for event 2, the 10-minute regularity run. Regularities are for cars that are not actually racing. The driver predetermines his lap time and is debited or credited or loses points for fast or slow, under or over his given lap time. Some of these drivers get very, very cunning. The slower the car, the easier it is to do. You're going to have the junior there in the Morris Cowley Tourer, pretty good at it. Likewise, car 38, the DKW, Bob Winley's. Jack Soller in the white Riley. Les Craft, another regular competitor, little supercharged Austin 7, home-built car. And he's sitting on the tail there of car 177, which is Barry Savage, in a 33 model. The Brian Selleck Ford being driven by John Sleisner. Brian sometimes drives the two-wheel brake RL Alpha with great verve, and you've got to be fairly brave to drive a two-wheel brake car here at Amaroo. Car 2, Robert Booth in the 49TC, a fairly new car to run in irregularity, but as all square riggers, any cars with guards and headlights as such are now allowed to run in regularity. Rex Turner in the three-wheel Morgan of 1935 vintage. Frank Wetton in the short chassis Brescia Bugatti, regular competitor at all historic meetings in both New South Wales and Victoria. The Holyoake A model, overhead valve conversion, very, very rapid A model this, and has been running since the Warwick Farm days in historic racing. Got quite a few racing miles under its belt with various drivers at the wheel. I don't think the oil on the circuit's really going to worry these guys. Pete Stammers in the Vauxhall, that was the first of the General Motors models. Steen Peterson in the beautiful little Samson from the South Coast. 1927 vintage. Morgans, the pocket of pocketers, and the McJoe Valvis, probably one of the most regular competing historic vintage cars, historic racing cars in vintage racing. Built out of nuts and bolts, probably about 15 years ago. Built it out of 44-gallon drums, all in bits, and he rebuilt it, modified it, sorted it out, and it's been driven by quite a few drivers, but always competes very, very regularly indeed. Select Ford V8, typical of the three-wall Ford specials, 3-speed gearbox, 21 stud V8 motor, 1935 Ford wire wheels, 2 springers. Jeff Douglas in the white Wolseley Hornet, and the blue F-Type of Paul Samuels with Albie Johnson driving. Beautifully turned out car, but not quite fast enough to race. Alf Lee in a little Ford 10 Special car 55, always a regular competitor. And of course, up until fairly recently, Aquaflame in England manufactured lots of bits and pieces for Ford 10s, and a very cheap little motor car to get going quickly and maintain. Up a hill to go, vast differences in speeds with all these various types of motor cars. The beautiful SS100 of Digby Thomas over from South Australia to compete in the tributed Jaguar later in the day. Bob Winley again, he built this body on the DKW himself, and of course these are independently sprung cars, front wheel drive, 2-stroke, and well in the grip of gravity in their normal form. Supercharged of course, they're quite a bit quicker. Brescia Bugatti, very, very rapid motor car in its day, and that short chassis, excellent as a sprint car for hill climbs and sprint racing, but a little bit twitchy on the longer circuits. Rex Turner in the Morgan, another regular competitor, and for a change, running without his wife. He's running in a car event as distinct from running as an outfit as they normally do when they race. Little Brian Austin coming in. So he's had enough. And racing Roger Wells in his Austin 7 Special also.
That's an incredible lineup of cars, John.
It certainly is, yes. There's a great variety there. 1440 Vauxhall, disc wheels.
How much money do you think's involved in all that?
Well, that's pretty hard to tell. It depends whether you're looking at it from an enthusiast or a collector, because there's a vast difference. Wouldn't you say, Andy?
I would certainly say so in that respect.
Hi.
They're going.
Oh, terrible. Everything's happening.
I don't believe it. It's a great day.
What?
It's a great day.
Yeah, it might be for you.
goodness me, there's one. It's not my old car, but it's the same thing. There are alleged only to be about 3 of them in New South Wales when I owned a milky-coloured green one. And this is a maroon one. Engine worked, went up and down, and it absorbed bumps, whereas the Daimler fell into holes and clamped on a motor car. And here we have a 300 SL. I said earlier there's a big difference between an SLR and an SL. An SL was about, 150 mile an hour car as a road-going vehicle and a 6-cylinder 3-litre. And the SLR was an inline straight 8 of 3 litres and, well, piloted Moss and Jenkinson around 1,000 miles. They will be very rapid cars indeed, but the car of Klaus Grono, 3G number plate, is a constant Concours winner, and yet the car is used regularly. So it typifies the sort of longevity, I think, that you get from Benzes. I always call Mercedes-Benz very honest motor cars, in that if you bought one today that were 20 years old or 10 years old, pretty well it'll do everything that it did when it was new.
Amaroo Park, August 1987, for the annual Historic Sports and Racing Car Association's meeting, and we have Paul Collins and our guest, one of our guests of honour, Bib Stillwell, getting ready to come out for the parade of Lotuses, as this year it's a tribute to Lotus, and the grand parade will be starting in just a few moments. The famous Lotus Elites, probably one of the most desirable of all the road cars that Lotus built, and quite a few of them still raced, as you'll see today. The Lotus 7, which started the sports car craze of the early 60s, and many of them be competing today, a lot of them in their full road regalia. Unusual paintwork. Later models in front of it. The 18s and the 20s, and the famous Lotus Cortinas. The
one of the big Australian accidents for which lovingly received.
Sam Johnson in the Dino Ferrari replica that he built himself, getting ready to come out for the demonstration with our guest of honour, Gavin Bain from New Zealand, in the fabulous 375 Formula One Ferrari. This is the ex-Froilan Gonzalez car, and it is very significant in Ferrari history as it was the first Ferrari to win a Grand Prix. The road-going Ferraris, the 250s and 350 and 375 GTBs, moving out for their parade.
That one.
Fast touring competition Ferrari.
What's that? Oh, you've been stuck around the wire. Oh, what did you do?
Three seconds that you said you were going to take off. You didn't take off with a piece, like a piece of cake. Well, it's not very new.
Be in the place you're meant to be on time. The way we run a meeting, if you haven't been here before, I will just as likely pull you out of the race. I'm not going to let any one individual spoil it for the 230 odd other competitors. You all know the flags. It's not like last year where we were talking, I hope not, an ambulance or a clerk of course people, 1, 2 or 3 across the track on the common times. So
the oldest vehicles.
they come forward and get prizes. But before we start, and I hand over to John Cummins, who's going to do the talking bit, which he's been doing most of the weekend. Let me just say a few things. For the people who've been selling the T-shirts, you may have noticed have got a few left, only a few, and they're at greatly reduced prices. If you want to grab them, they're packing up within the hour. And the other thing is, there's been a company called Production Oz who's been videoing the entire event. Jeff will take orders right now for the bid. It's going to be a good video, and it's only $39.95. $39.95. If Goodyear and Kodak. I'm going to hand it over now to John Cummins, who's going to
Association, but Stephen was the organiser of the meeting. And how about three cheers for Stephen, who did a lot of work.
Fire marshals and the flag marshals have done such a great job here for the last 2 days, and I wouldn't have liked them standing out there in all that heat and all that tide.
With it, and we're exceptionally pleased with the hard work that's been put in by Stephen, the committee, the officials and the competitors, and I'm doubly pleased to be a competitor here as well. So I thank you all. Thanks very much.
It's all worth another mention. The marshals and the officials, and there are hundreds of them. I think we had 150 yesterday, 150 today, 80 I think on Friday. A tremendous number of people who have done a wonderful job in appalling conditions, and it's worth another round of applause for the marshals and the officials. Much more difficult to control. Charlie and his crew have been working with people he hasn't worked with before, and I called Charlie over. He's never lost.
Thank you. I usually only get a chance to talk to you when I'm in an abusive mood. I usually only get a chance to talk to you when I'm in one of my abusive moods at the beginning of a race meeting. It's been an incredibly hard race meeting to get together, and I think the greatest compliment must go to all those people that helped me today. And believe me, there are people out there that came out because of what AARC means, what HSRCA means, who don't normally come to a moment when competitors start to come up to me and say, what a fabulously run meeting. If you'd known what was going on behind the scenes, you might not have said that. And that's the greatest compliment to all those guys and gals out there that helped us get that meeting on, helped us work through incredibly bad conditions yesterday. When that dust storm was blowing, we were pretty well falling over. We brought all the officials in.
Graham's voice is like Graham Howard imitating Gott Whitlam, imitating Graham Howard. And Graham, Malcolm, that's the sort of race that caused the death of poor old Enzo. I think it's a very nice story. Thanks.
Christmas 1985, and for the fourth occasion, cars from a 50-year period are gathering at Seaforth for the Seaforth Grand Parade, taking in the back streets of Seaforth and the main highway. The action starts when the bridge goes up at 2:30 in the afternoon, and in the meantime, the drivers and mechanics talk about today and yesterday. Famous drivers from all around Australia gathered here today. It's a hot and steamy morning, but that won't diminish the 60 cars' performance around the streets of Seaforth. Ian Adams, well-known constructor and driver of a Formula 5000, along with John Goss, also a Formula 5000 competitor of years gone by and winner of the Australian Grand Prix and Bathurst twice. Peter Malloy, famous engine tuner. Bob Bernard, famous for the street circuit in Adelaide, and the Harbour City Jazz Band. Kids walking on the road.
Racing cars on the street. It'll all happen in about 2 minutes' time when the Spit Bridge opens, and if we're very quick we can get 3 laps of Seaforth before it closes again.
From the main street of Seaforth, the connecting roads, onto Spit Hill proper, and this is where the crowd has come to see the spectacle of the 4th Seaforth Grand Parade. The 60 cars are just ahead of us, bringing up the rear, and all the breakdown vehicles got a job already. The Lagonda has subsided on the side of the road with a supercharger problem. Crowd increases in capacity, or density we should say, as we climb up under the bridge. Absolutely chock-a-block, full of interested spectators, as it has been every year. Up to the left-hander we go and into the main street. The Hudson having a bit of a rest after a lap. And the famous Prad. Out of the main street and down onto the connecting roads, back to the bridge itself.
One of the very early Formula 5000s. The twin cam MGA coming down, and the Healy Silverstone with Bob Bernard, the master behind the track surfacing and layout of the recent Adelaide Grand Prix. Very great pleasure to have Bob Bernard here as a guest today at the Seaforth Grand Parade. Down comes the Grand National sedan. The Albury Automotive car runs at Liverpool. A lot of into the formation area for the judging of this year's best car of the show.
It's an absolute credit to Bruce Pillane and the city fathers of the district and to yourselves for turning up. A great day. So without any ado, I'd like to move on to presenting the third prize.
Thank you, John.
Well done, Pat, and I just think that I'd like you to come up because a lot of us know, we understand the deep friendship that you've got with Peter and the great work you've done with some of your cars, and I applaud that, and it gives me a lot of pleasure in offering this little prize. It's a season ticket to Warren Park. But thanks, Peter, and our own individual input to the pattern of judging. And we all very definitely had our own way of viewing today's event, but it was very, very...
Turn around and go. you might like to move over to the eastern side, approximately.
That was my idea. That was my idea. Got its head off, we can feed on it and tilt it over. I acquired that from Jim McDonald in Melbourne. I don't think it wants to do it. Australia made that. No, that's a copy of the K3 one, that on the Goldie Gardner car. Yeah. No, I can't remember. And the other nasty thing that I did is I tipped the front cross member up the other way, like we made a new one. You know how you've got to lift the car over the nose piece?
Yeah. Come and show us how you squeeze into this flying batter box.
Squeeze is the operative term, sir. There.
He did it.
Cock up that I've done, which I haven't got organised fully yet, is that I've got the lights under the oil pressure gauge and the water temp gauge.
Gee, is this? And how old is it? Where did you get it?
Well, it's a long story, but it starts out something like this. After I stuffed myself through the fence at Bathurst and we started Sydney Speed Shop, Jeff McGrath suggested I race his blown P-type at Bourne Park and also the defunct Warwick Farm circuit, various other places in the period, and I started to drive it and enjoy it, and then he said, I've got a spare frame at home, I'll give it to you.
What year was this?
This was 29 years ago.
Right.
So that's why it's taken so long. I only started with a spare frame, and now it's a complete car. I've got to thank Peter Thomas in Melbourne, who did all the castings, made the body, and did all the mechanical work.
And what model was this race? What would it be its first year? 1934.
P-type.
That was the day of when motor cars were motor cars, real cars.
Indeed, and it is built in the period of a mid-30s Brooklands outer circle car.
What do you think of that latest MG? It doesn't look like an MG to me, it looks like anything Japanese.
Yeah, with its engine hidden in the middle. Bloody awful.
Thank you, John.
Very biased about theirs, of course. Intermittent fault, and one day, just one